Shalom. It's your brother Yarok, giving all praise to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachach Wadash, for giving me the spirit to do this lesson. Shalom to the elect of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, whom the Lord will have mercy on in these latter days. Shalom to the men of the Lord, the prophets that are preaching and teaching on the highways and byways in sincerity and in truth. Shalom, shalom. This is another quick hit news and prophecy. This here is by the guy Dabu 7. Or 777 in this case. It says Germany warns Europe to brace for a reality in which U.S. is no longer a world power. Hey, the scripture said that this would happen, man. Now this is a logo here of them at NATO. Now NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is basically America or the Americas, including Canada, I believe, and maybe Mexico. I'm not sure, but basically the America and Europe, basically going all the way basically to the borders of Russia for the most part, uh, and Germany is a major part of the EU or the European Union, and together they form NATO, and this is the beast of Revelation that is talked about. Is this confederacy of these European countries along with America, because it's all ruled by Esau Edom basically, including Russia, but Russia is separate, uh, in this regard to the beast, that's spoken about. So without further ado, I'll let Man Dabu go in.
This is Dabu 7. We have Angela Merkel warning Europe, specifically Germany, that they should brace for a reality in which the U.S. is no longer a superpower. This is something that is being repeated over and over again. We even have Canada, our closest ally and neighbor, seeing China as the world's economic power at this point.
You heard that? So even Canada is seeing China as the world's economic superpower. Why? Because America, with all their high IQ, they very stupidly gave all their manufacturing jobs over to a nation that, they've not always been mortal enemies, but there's been enmity between them ever since the world wars, you know. And they stupidly, over the course of the last several decades, gave away all the manufacturing jobs over to China. And not just that, China has way more resources that are apt to today's world. Rare earth elements, where you make batteries, tungsten, where you make military equipment, all the things that Esau cares about. China has damn near monopoly, 80-90% production of these resources. And the US has given over all the manufacturing. So all the jobs here in America are basically banking and service industry jobs, you know. There's a few relics like the car industry. You have Tesla making stuff, but for the most part, manufacturing of all things, most of the things you buy, it's made in China, it's made in the Philippines and Indonesia. You know, it's made in third world countries because these greedy Edomites that you see on the screen here, they can't help but to get more and more profit margins. Even at the risk of costing their own people jobs. And that's one reason why this man needs to go. But either way, I digress.
Speaks on this exact same thing. She says we may have to shift in our stance, and we may have to accept that in a world where war could break out, that the United States may not be there to help us.
Hey, and they're realizing that Americans are not to be trusted, you know? And these are the same people. So these nations, this is prophesied, these nations are going to turn against America. They are already actively plotting, you know? What a lot of people don't realize is that Europe is way more dependent on Russia than they are the U.S. in terms of natural resources. The scriptures refer to Europe as the bottomless pit. They literally don't have energy. They have to import energy from either the Middle East through Turkey or through Russia. Russia has by far the most infrastructure and pipelines going into Europe. So if push comes to shove, they're going to choose to side with Russia. You know. Now there's an article I believe I did with Germany and how they blasted the U.S. because the U.S. tried to shut down their Nordic pipeline deal. There's a pipeline coming from Russia to Germany over the Baltic Sea in the north, and the U.S. placed sanctions on them for that. Told them they couldn't do an oil deal with the oil pipeline deal with Russia. You know, but the U.S. isn't providing them any oil. You know, so these nations are tired of the whore of Babylon, which is America. You know. Um, Before he finishes, let me just get that Obadiah 1. It's really in verse 7, but I'll start at 1 because this whole chapter is really good. Um, it says, the vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord God concerning Edom. And Edom is both Germany, uh, primarily Germans, and Americans and Canadians, you know, really all of Europe. Uh, we have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye and let us rise up against her in battle. Okay, so this is a rumor that there's about to be a battle against the house of Esau. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised, because the whole world hates you. They just know you're in power, you're in rulership. You know, America is the muscle with all the military bases. You know, London is the financial center. You know, and the Vatican is in Italy is where all the religious rhetoric gets spewed out of. Uh, Verse 3, it says, the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rocks, whose habitation is high. Now can be nobody but Esau, Edom, you know, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, or who has the symbol of the eagle? You know, walking around with his chest puffed out all over the earth. Who has all these space stations up in the heavens? You know, these satellites. Thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. If thieves came to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they not have stolen till they had enough? If the grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes? It says, how are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? Because one of the hidden things is that they're the Edomites. They want to hide these things, but that's coming out to the spirit, you know, the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, you know, through his prophets, his men of the Lord. This is the main part, Obadiah 7, 1 and 7, Salakia. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee, that's the EU, that's partly including Germany, have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. Yeah, because they'll eat your bread. They'll take, you know, all your military help and aid and foreign aid in various forms and the money they give you, but that money is bullshit. But either way, you know, they live good off of America and what America's doing, you know. That they eat thy bread, have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. So this rhetoric that you're hearing coming out of Germany is the sentiment that's going all the way across all of Europe. Because Germany is considered to still be one of the leaders of Europe. They're the highest. They have one of the greatest economies, Slovakia, and along with England, which I would say is probably number one, and France. But see, even France, I mean, Slovakia, even England, or Britain, they have what you call the Brexit. You know, so that whole thing is breaking up. That they're them subscribing to America and its policies. That whole thing is it's really already crumbled. You know, I believe. I personally believe that they're already plotting, as the scriptures say here, to to uh, to get from under America. They don't see the usefulness of America anymore, especially if they're going to place sanctions on you just for trying to get energy in your country. Um, Verse 8, shall I not in that day, saith the Lord, even destroy the wise men out of Edom and understanding out of the mount of Esau? So the Most High has set this up that these nations turn against you, you know, so you can be destroyed, utterly destroyed. Let's let them finish.
She says that they may relinquish this willingly, that they would give up this title willingly. She goes on and on about this, and it's very interesting. Now, some could say that she's trying to pitch the European military thing here, which she stopped short of talking about. This is something that Macron has been talking about, saying that they need to put together a big European military presence.
Right. They want their own European military. Why? Because America is basically the military over there. You know, one of the largest uh, numbers of soldiers are in Germany. U.S. soldiers, tens of thousands, I believe. You know, because America has military bases all throughout Europe, and now that America is placing sanctions on these countries and has been giving them aid, what they're starting to look at these uh, bases as instead of protection, they're starting to look at them as garrisons, as American strongholds in these countries in case they ever wanted to buck up. You know, they're no longer seeing America as allies. I believe, and when you start hearing any group of people say we want our own military, we want to fight on our own, just know that they're not with you anymore. Basically, if someone's saying they don't want your protection, that means they don't want nothing to do with you. You know.
To counter who? The whole scheme of a world stage is starting to fall apart here, as we see these world leaders have been working together behind the curtain over and over again, flashing the same hand signs, the whole nine. Same old song and dance of controlling both sides, creating an illusion, having people buy in to one of both sides, and then fighting over it. You're seeing this globally, this age-old tactic, and going into election year, it's going to decimate this country. So, how it's all going to shake out and go down, I'm not sure here at this point, but I figured I would.
Well, I'll take it from here, Dabu. I'll let you know what's going to happen as pursuant to Obadiah 1, with the nations laid a wound under thee. This is Revelations 17 and 16. I'll start at 15. And he said, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. So they're seeing this beast where the whore is sitting on top of it, and it's on top of this water, and it's explaining that water that John the Revelator is seeing is represents peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. Okay, so that's the beast. Okay, and America is that whore that's sitting on top of the beast that has the 10 horns. Verse 16, it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. Okay, it says they shall hate the whore. Okay, now if Germany is the leader, I would say, of Europe, or one of the leaders of Europe, is speaking like this, and France, another leader of Europe, has also been proposing its own military European. What do you think they're really thinking of talking about behind closed doors? Now, this is what they've publicized, what they've put out into the public, whether it be a press release or just a statement. They've they verbalize these wants, these desires to basically have independence of America. Because things have reversed now. First, it was Europe that colonized this land over here in America, but now it's reversed. You know, that whore is gotten out of control. Now she's basically occupying Europe, if you think about it, with all the various military bases in France, in Germany, you know, in England, especially in those Eastern European countries like Ukraine, Lithuania, you know, Poland, you know. It says, "These shall hate the whore," you know, "and shall make her desolate and naked." And how are they going to make her desolate and naked? You know, they're going to abandon her. You know, they're going to abandon the whore. When all hell breaks loose, these European nations are not going to side with America. The West, as you know it, as has been colloquially called ever since World War II, that everyone is sent out, white people in, you know, Western world, Europe, that's no longer a thing, even right now today as we speak. The fact that it's still called that right now is just optics, you know. The America has already really been severed from Europe. You know, those Europeans don't want anything to do with Americans. You know, they only like what they can benefit from America, but that's it. You know, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So that's what's gonna happen, Dabu. You know, all of those nations are gonna be confederate with shooting missiles to this place, definitely including Russia and Iran. You know, everyone is gonna just make the decision that this whore, that's just, you know, drunk on blood and power and is a psychopath, has got to go. You know, has got to go. It says, "For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled." Right? Because the Most High put it in their hearts to even link up with America, to even force the alliance with NATO, you know, to be allies with the whore, you know, all so they could, at the end, he can turn them against them, you know. "And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth," you know. And another precept here is in Psalm 64. I can start at 2. It says, "Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity." Now, this is Esau, Edom on all sides: Europe, Russia, America, all of the so-called white people across the globe, really, that are the house of Esau, "who whet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words." Because, you know, Jake, so-called Negros, Latinos, and Native Americans, they're looked down upon across the globe, not just among Edomites, but across uh, you know, all nations, really. That they may shoot in secret at the perfect, suddenly do they shoot and aim, shoot at shoot at him, Salakia, and fear not. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of layering snares privily. They say, "Who shall see them?" Because all of these nations, they've been conspiring with each other, really to try to dominate the world. It's still just imperialism. Esau Edom has never given up on imperialism. It's not in him to turn back and not want to conquer everything, and use bloodshed and war. You know. So all these nations have been conspiring, but now what we're starting to see is that they're turning against each other in a matter to do so, uh, and a means to do so. Verse 6, "They search out iniquities, they accomplish a diligent search, both inward thought of every one of them, and the heart is deep." Because really, all these nations, although they're conspiring or have been conspiring with each other to try and, you know, dominate the West, you saw that with Europe and America. They start colonizing all these areas around Asia, India, you know, South Africa, you know. the Canary Islands, these various remote places. They set up these little colonies, but in their own mind, although they're working together, they want to. Each of them in their own right wants to rule because that's the selfish nature of an Edomite. You know, France wants to rule, Germany wants to rule, but they've all been working together this whole time. You know, it says, and the heart is deep because they can't help themselves. He heaped together all flesh. That's their desire. To enlarge as in hell, as in death, as death. Uh, Verse 7 says, but God shall shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded. You know, so none of the things that they've been plotting is going to come to pass. You know, so they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. And that's exactly what we're seeing right here. You know, they're fighting. It's infighting. There's strife and contention amongst their plot to world domination, and the Most High has sown all this confusion and discord among their ranks. You know why? So he can utterly destroy them, not just burn them with fire, but utterly destroy them. Esau's gonna know that he's a loser right before he loses. It's gonna be complete and in totality. He's gonna know he never had any friends. He's gonna know that no one ever liked him. And he's gonna know that none of the plans that he ever made was ever gonna come to fruition except what the Most High wanted to come. You know, to pass. You know, so they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. Verse 9, and all men shall fear and shall declare the work of the Most High, who they shall wisely consider of his doing. Right, because when they see this great empire fall and crumble, because America's going to be completely destroyed, Europe's going to get ran through, like no other. We're going to destroy all those monuments, all that bullshit, those representations of wickedness and death and imperialism, all that nonsense that they did out of wickedness. Hey, that's going to be brought down, man. They're gonna, like it says, for they shall wisely consider of his doing. Last verse, it says, the righteous shall be glad in the Lord Yahweh and shall trust in him, and all the upright in heart shall glory. So that's going to be us, brothers. We just got to hold on to the end and pray that we're of that number of the elect, that the Most High has mercy on us, that we live to see this day that this man goes down, So I just wanted to get that, share that news. We're seeing more and more of these prophecies come to pass. Hopefully you brothers were edified. Call Law Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rachach Wadash Wa Abba Babal.